That song was performed in a museum, where they were, and so it is, in a museum where Lizard is having a problem because the girl that he fell in love with on his major journey was being abused. And he felt that he was helpless and there was nothing he could do. And the curator of this museum basically sat him down and said, look, that's not true. There is never nothing you can do. There is always something for you to do in your life to move your life forward. And Bob Morrissey was brilliant singing it, and I listened to it every time I was there to see the show. Or if I was even up in my office when the show was going on, I'd stop to go listen to this song. And if you heard in there, Remember Who You Are didn't come for years after that. Love only, forgive everything, remember who you are, our vision statement, that didn't come along till years later, and yet it's all right there in that song. Sometimes there are things moving through you, things coming through you, ideas, understanding that you don't even know. It's just moving you along. You say it, you converse it, you live from it, but you don't even get it until suddenly you're like, oh my God, this is what I believe. This is where I have come to. And you can go back and find all the little traces of what was going on. So the title, And So It Is usually generally a release of spiritual mind treatment. Blah, 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 blah. God is, I am. God is, I am. God is, I am. We say what we want, what we're looking to create in our world. We're very grateful, and then we release it, and so it is. But what is that release, really? It's an understanding that I get it, that it already is. I get this quantum field of pure potentiality. I get that it is potential for anything to happen in our lives, for us to create anything we want to create. It's all here. It's here. And so it is. That and so it is remarkably powerful when it's connected to the feeling of and so it is. If you're just saying and so it is, you might as well say hippity-doo-dah-doo. Actually, that'd be a fun way to end treatment. Could you imagine? And I am grateful for everything, hippity-doo-dah-doo. Which means and so it is. I might get more feeling from that. But that's what we're looking for, the connection. And so it is, oh my God, just like that connection I had in Kauai. When I got it, I was done. You know, this November 25th will be, on Thanksgiving, will be 3 years since Nora's accident. And I'm done. I'm done with not grief, because grief, I think, is a good thing, and we walk through it, and we live it, and it moves us, and it lives us. But I am done with anything that will, in any way, shape, or form, take away what that girl brought to my life. I want to focus on that. And when I was in Kauai, all of that came up to me. I went to Kauai specifically to deal with Nora and to deal with my own feelings about that. And it's been really important for me to get this. The and so it is must be attached to feelings, or and so it's not really yet. Because I unfortunately think that's what most practitioners do at the end. And so it is really, and so, God, I hope so. And we must find a way. Ernest Holmes said, treat until you demonstrate. You know what I think he meant? Treat until you actually say, and so it is, and mean it. Really mean it. Not, and so it is, and I still have some things to work out. Then work them the hell out. And then say, and so it is. And make sure you believe it, absolutely know it. So the title of my talk today is, in honor of Halloween, of course, Behind the Mask. If you want to turn around and look, it's a beautiful picture. It's like Greek statue. It's a Greek statue holding a stone mask. So it's called Behind the Mask. But, you know, it's not what you think. I've been a minister almost 20 years, so I've given, 20 Halloween talks, and celebrating Halloween. And I do not celebrate Halloween, by the way, but I do celebrate the consciousness of it, and the concept of we way too often hide behind our costumes. We way too often hide behind masks. And understanding treatment, I think the and so it is should get its own little mask. because it's here. It's not here. And so when we let go of something, when we let go of whatever it is, our personality is bringing that, whatever it was, into whatever it will be. That's a mask for most of us, because our core beliefs and our values, our personalities, have all been concocted and built up over years and years of so many impacts on our lives that we all have some form of mask that we need to obliterate in order to get to this authentic self. Because the authentic self is the only place where we can say, and so it is, and move mountains. I believe Jesus could do that. I believe Buddha could do that. I believe Muhammad could do that. I believe many of you can do that at specific moments. I'd like to string those moments together, though, and actually live a life like that at all times. So the mask that I'm talking about, behind the mask, I'm talking about behind the consciousness of who you have decided you are, the personalities you have, the idiosyncrasies you have, the traits you have. I don't know that there's anyone in here that can't point to something they'd like to maybe autocorrect in their personalities. Anybody? I have a few for you, Kevin. Kidding. I have a few for myself, right? So yes, we know there are things we can go in and focus on and take care of. And that's our responsibility, because you know what? Until we do that, we cannot say, and so it is, with the clarity and the focus and the believability that causes it to be. People ask, why doesn't treatment work when it doesn't work? I'm like, treatment does work. Even when it doesn't work, it's working because it's showing you that you're not there yet. So treatment is still working. That's one of Ernest Holmes' greatest quotes. The very teaching proves itself even when it seems to not be proving itself. So underneath everything that you are, even with all of your flaws, and we all got them, underneath everything is perfection. Do you believe that, Nancy? Yeah. Do you believe that, Corrine? That underneath everything, all the bull cocky, it's perfection. Yes? That was just for you and your Oklahoma roots, Kelly. It's all perfection. That's what's there. Now, how do we get there? Well, it's interesting. My first slide, which you're not going to see, is a picture of the statue of David. How many of you have gone to Rome and seen the statue of David? Okay, so then you all know. Florence, sorry. Yeah. See, I told you I didn't know where I was. Florence, that's right, the first city. Actually, they have a really good replica in Rome. So in Florence, so when we walked in, obviously you can't see it, I'm sorry. Everybody online, you can see it. So you might have wanted to stay home today and watch this online. I walked into that room, and it was crowded, but he was so immense. I've seen the statue of David on the internet. I've seen pictures of it. I've always thought it's beautiful, but I'd never been in its presence. And when you all know this, when I walked into the room, I was literally like, that was just mind-boggling. And there weren't as many people as there usually are because of the COVID rules. So eventually, I was able to get up very close, really pay attention to it. Now, Michelangelo said this: the statue is a prisoner of the stone. The statue, and I kept that figure on the side. See that big piece of concrete? It's actually a marbleized piece. That's kind of what he would maybe start out with. And he'd see this big blob, and then it's like, the statue is a prisoner of the stone. It's in there. That's what it is. And yet he saw it. So I have some questions for you today, which is, what's inside of you that you haven't chiseled out yet? Where is your David inside of you that is a prisoner? Where's the life that you get to live at its highest level that may be prisoner to some core beliefs you have that's perhaps stopping you from experiencing it? When I was standing there looking at this statue, and they started explaining some of the problems with this, or people that came in and vandalized the statue before it got protection, chipping away fingers and hitting the face, just trying to prove that you could get rid of creativity, that you could get rid of somebody's creation. Do you know there's not a thing that you ever create that is ever lost? Even if it's gone, it's still there because it's all energy. You can take that statue of David down to a gazillion particles. It's still David. It is still that energized field. So what do you need, perhaps, to chisel away? And more importantly, are you willing to go in there and do the work? So the second slide is just this is me getting closer to the statue. And Michelangelo said, I created a vision of David in my mind and carved away everything that was not David. I mean, just think about that quote. And you guys can come over to this side. If you want to come and sit on the stage and watch it, you can. I created a vision of David in my mind and carved away everything that was not David. So what's not Tiffany that needs to be carved away, Tiffany? I just mentioned you because you're sitting there. Alex? Any of you, just ask yourself. I carved away everything that was not David. I'm still carving everything away that is not James. And you know the biggest issue? I've kind of convinced myself it is James, but it's not. Because if I am God, then there are certain things that are not really working with that understanding. So what about yourself? What could you carve away that could expose? And I get it. It's vulnerable. It's hard. Reverend Karen said something to me this week, and I was like, oh my God, she is so right. There are issues that we deal with. This is one side of the curtain of being a spiritual center. There's the other side of the curtain that Karen and I live on of what it is to be a spiritual center. And we have things to handle every day. And Karen said to me this week, she said, well, we're either going to come at everything from love only or nothing from love only. So what's it going to be? And it was like, and she wasn't challenging me. She was just saying, this is how we have to handle this. And it was so heart-wrenching. I was like, you're absolutely right. But it's so easy to forget, isn't it? It's so easy to forget. I got to deal with this way. I can fix this. No, just keep chiseling. Just keep carving, keeping what's important in your mind, a vision of perfection. That's who you are. That's who I am. That's what's behind the mask, this perfect vision. And it was great because we stayed there a very long time. Are you willing to empower yourself by seeing yourself from a different angle? If you give me the next slide. So I have probably 50 pictures of David from all different angles. And he said, I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free. Jesus said, the truth shall set you free. Eric Butterworth of Unity, that was his entire ministry. The truth shall set you free. What truth, though? Only one. It's right there. Remember who you are. It's the only truth. That is the only truth worth knowing. That you are the divine. That you are the incarnation of all the creativity of the universe. Not just this little piece that you represent, as Kevin said, all of it. I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free. Each one of you has the responsibility to pull out your best Michelangelo and start chipping away, to set yourself free, to come at this thing called life from an authentic surrender of, this is who I am. And if this is who I am, this is the only answer I can have. Love only. Forgive everything. And of course, remember who I am. I have another quote by Raymond Charles Barker, the next slide, if you would. Now, this is the Colosseum. We had a beautiful trip to the Colosseum, albeit a long walk through the Colosseum, through many, many layers of the Colosseum. And I had been to the Colosseum in 1981 or 82. I was doing a TV series in Rome. at the Teatro Sistina. And we took a day and we went, actually, that's not it. I just got caught in my own mind. I was like, I could tell you this, but actually the real truth story is I was at a discotheque at 3 a.m. and dancing on top of a grand piano in a pair of little shorts, nothing else, and singing Memory from Cats. And which no one understood because they all spoke Italian, and so I made up my own lyrics because I didn't know the lyrics to Cats. I still remember singing Memory, there's a cat in the window, and I just made it all up. But I met this beautiful young man who wanted to take me for a ride. I heard it. Wanted to show me the Colosseum on his motorcycle. And so at that time, there were no, I can't believe it, this is not in my notes. At that time, there were no, you could go into the Colosseum. It wasn't there were no barriers to get into the first few layers. So literally the bottom windows there, doors, we went into that and all around the Colosseum. It was unbelievable. Going back this time, and Kevin was so excited to see the Colosseum, and yes, I'd already told him the whole story, but he was so excited to see the Colosseum. But it was a totally different experience for me because it's really locked down, and to get in there is very difficult. And, it was interesting to be there and to have that juxtapositioning of it. And I thought to myself, how much of what we love do we lock down out of fear? Because we're living in a world of collective consciousness where perhaps people will not respect us enough to not do harm. And yet, is it really serving us to cover our hearts and our souls with protective covering because we're afraid of how people may or may not be treating us, or how we will survive this world? So Raymond Charles Barker said, our ancestors who changed the world did so through new ideas which came to them as they acted. New ideas. Last week, Dr. Sue Rubin got up on this stage, and I will just thank her, although I've already spoken to her this week, thank her for coming here and manning the ship. But I want you to know something. Dr. Sue came here and gave a very powerful talk. A lot of the stuff that Dr. Sue's been saying her whole life, because she believes it 1 billion%, and filtered in through all of it were new ideas. She talked about quantum physics. She talked about the neuropathways. She talked about bridging science of mind with quantum metaphysics and understanding it. She didn't say those words, but that's what she meant. And she and I had a great talk this week. And one of the things she said to me was, she said, what's going on now in this church, she said, needed to happen a long time ago. She said, and I am so glad that what's going on here is growing us and expanding us. And you can expect to see Dr. Sue a lot more because she's going to be more part of this ministry as we go into the new year. Yes, she will come speak every 5 or 6 weeks. So I think it's important for us. Our ancestors who changed the world did so through new ideas. There's a different you ready for you to chip away at and unleash into this universal energy, this palpable, creative, successful, loving, respectful, kind, giving person. That's what's under there. But we do have to start chipping away, and we do have to start acting now. And so my final slide, if you would pull up the last slide there. So I want you to see that staircase. All these pictures are pictures I took. That is a staircase in the Vatican. We were at the top, obviously. It's a spectacular, for those of you who can't see, spiral staircase. It looks like it's all in gold. It's kind of a little bit like the Guggenheim, only the Guggenheim if it were in a church. Very gold, very articulated. So Michelangelo said this, the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. You know, there's a lot going on in my life right now. A lot of change, a lot of expansion, a lot of new ideas. There is a feeling that I have that there's more for me to do. There's a feeling that I have that there's more for me to be a part of. And it's a good feeling. It can be unsettling at times, but it's good. And it's all about what I'm doing right here, right now. How does this get out into the world more? How do we get this message, not just to all of us sitting here, how do we get it to people that need it everywhere? The youth need this message. And that is something we must focus on. How do we get children and teenagers to hear this message, to get it? Because we need to start empowering the youth and ourselves, but empower the youth and the teens and even the kindergarten students. Empower them to know they should reach as high as possible. And it doesn't matter if they reach it or not. It's, as Kevin said, it's the journey. What goes on as you're reaching for that highest thing? Why are we settling for, you could probably be good at this. You could maybe do this. No. And that's who we need to be ourselves. We need to be the Michelangelos of our own lives, chipping away. And even when you get a statue, I love this article I read that said that David at one point seemed finished to everybody else. But Michelangelo was like, no, my God, I'm still in process. They're like, no, it's beautiful. No, I'm still in process. And it got more beautiful and went beyond what anyone thought could happen in a slab of marble. You are that slab of marble. And you are not done. You are in process, or process if you're watching me from Canada. You are in the midst of being turned into this breathtaking, beautiful, perfect expression of this one thing that you already are. We're just getting rid of all the years and years and years of misunderstanding and of consciousness that has not been directed in the right direction. So that's your job. That's who we get to be. I am done, absolutely done, being okay with settling for a level that seems amazing when I know there's even more amazement. Someone asked me the other day, they said, so when are you going to retire? If one more person asks me when I'm going to retire, I'm like, how about never? I am not retiring. You know, and then someone asked me again, so you're going to finally move out to Palm Springs? I'm like, no. I'm going to live in Palm Springs sometimes. I'm going to live in Studio City sometimes. Who knows? Maybe I'll get a townhouse in Westlake. It's a better drive. I don't know. I will be everywhere, as we said earlier. Don't settle. Don't settle for the statue that you've already created. Don't settle for the life that you've already made, even though it's amazing. Don't settle. There's way more. Just chip away a few more pieces. We've all had moments that we're not proud of, have we? Who has had a moment they're not proud of in their life? We've all had it. It's hard. Yeah, use both arms. Yeah. It's hard. It's very hard. You know, as a minister, it gets even harder because when you make a mistake or you lose your temper or you're impatient, you're not expected to be that because you're a minister. I always laugh. I'll go, oh, dear, you don't understand. A minister just means I signed up to be with you in the journey. That's it. And to just be a way shower when I find something I see. That's it. I'll still have my chips. I'm still chipping. I am still chipping away. But here's one thing I'll tell you. I've agreed to do it. Unfortunately, I've agreed to do it in public, apparently. But I've agreed to do it, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to fall down so that other people can see what that looks like. And because I'm always going to get back up. So I invite you, as we close out this month of empowerment, I invite you to really get working, to really start acting on this truth that within you is perfection. Do not stop until you get there. Namaste. Thank you.